Hello there, everybody. My voice may sound different, but whatever. Yo, so earlier today, I was just randomly scrolling, chilling, and then I get this notification. It's like, well, I'm scrolling on YouTube, and I see him or Roundhouse Radio record a video. Dylan Dennis put out the fight. Now I'm like, did he? I'm not gonna believe it right away. And then I go to KSI's Twitter, and it turns out he's fighting face temper. So that's crazy. Two fights, two pullouts.
Dylan Dannis is out.
Wasn't he going to fight somebody else though as a backup
Of his fight against KSI officially, and the reason is even stupider than you might possibly believe it to be. And we're going to go over everything that is to come, everything that has happened, and everything in between in this video. Guys, before we do that, make sure to check out the Fight Team Training Instagram. Give it a follow. Give the top post a like because it just leaked all of the cool things that you're going to be able to access and see on that app. But let's get right into this video. So first things first, Dylan Dannis has dropped out of this fight in a move that nobody, well, I guess we all kind of saw this coming, didn't we? 10 days out from the fight, Dylan Dannis, the biggest L collector in the entire combat sports space, let alone the social media boxing space, has dropped out of his fight against KSI. Obviously, he just used this as an opportunity to gain clout and never was really interested in going through with this fight at all because, like I said in my last video, this guy sucks at boxing, okay? He is not secretly concealing anything, and him dropping out for no real reason, in my opinion, shows exactly that. Guys, according to Mams Taylor, which is KSI's manager, Dannis has withdrawn from the fight. And
you know what's funny also? On his Twitter, I looked to see at his Twitter, he retweeted somebody saying that he dropped out and said cat.
KSI will now fight FaZe Temper. So guys, we're going to go into a breakdown of that at another time. We'll break down FaZe Temper as an opponent for KSI, but right now we're just going to be covering exactly what is going on with Dylan Dannis. So he said, I got a phone call from Dylan saying he is pulling out of the fight. The real reason, from what they've said to me, is that he's underprepared and he has no coach. He might be struggling with the weight. For someone who cares so much about his reputation as he does, what people think about him, I didn't think this would happen. I mean, I think that is a miscalculation of Dylan Dannis, who is the biggest clown in the entire MMA space. Now, let's dive into a couple of these points that he's just made here, right? Underprepared, unable to find a coach. On Ariel Helwani's show, he even said that he didn't have a coach, which is just showing that he's burned pretty much every bridge that he has in this space.
Damn.
But he was saying that he didn't need one. Obviously, that wasn't the case.
No wonder.
Then he says something about struggling with the weight. Well, if we look at Dylan Dannis, we look at him as a 170-pound fighter in his Bellator career. This fight was scheduled for 175 pounds. He made some things.
Yeah, I heard that case. I was like, you know what, bro? Well, it was with whatever they signed, right? The contract was 177. And then 7.5 pounds in rehydration weight or some shit. And then they took that out. So it's just 177.5.
Things about a rehydration clause, which apparently weren't actually in effect. And that was kind of all just made up. Or at least they were willing to drop the rehydration clause. It wasn't very important. And Dylan mentioned himself being a bigger than normal guy. But if we actually look at Dylan Dannis in his 170-pound fights with Bellator, we see that he really isn't that big of a guy. When you look at other 170-pound fighters, when you compare him to everyone else in the weight category, especially giving him an extra 5 pounds at 175 pounds, you realize that doesn't really hold up. For example, when you compare him to Anthony Yardy, who fights at 175 pounds in boxing, you can see pretty clearly one of these guys looks like it's a miracle he's making 170 pounds. And the other guy looks like he just woke up one morning and was 175 pounds. I don't really think that that holds up under any real scrutiny. And in fact, if he was struggling with the weight, that would be more of an indicator that he wasn't prepared, that he was out of shape, because he just does not have the muscle mass or the lean body tissue for me to believe that he would not be able to make 175 pounds. If he's not able to make that weight, he's probably just fat and out of shape. And if you see in the videos, that doesn't really hold up either. He looks like he's in decent shape. He looks like he'd be able to make this weight pretty easily. So in my opinion, and this is just me speculating, I think that he just knew he was going to get knocked out cold on TV by a YouTuber in front of the entire world. and he didn't want that to happen because he was probably out of shape and his boxing did not come together the way maybe he thought it would. He was probably getting beat up in gyms that he was going to, wasn't performing very well, and pulled out of the fight. Honestly, and I say this almost never. I almost never say this. But I think that he was just intimidated and probably a little scared to get in the ring. That's probably the reality of the situation. I think that he weighed the pros and cons of this and said, look, I'm making a decent amount of money on my Twitter and Instagram accounts. This is going to be negative for my look when I get absolutely starched and memed, and I'm just going to not do it. So that's the reality of the situation. Now, guys, FaZe Temper has stepped up on 10 days' notice to fight KSI. Obviously, when we kind of look at this in retrospect, we can see, obviously, FaZe Temper was pretty clearly already ready to be the backup fighter, right? They didn't announce his opponent.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm back.
They kept that all under wraps. That's obviously because
I was going to say, I thought he had somebody else to fight because a while back they showed that he was going to be fighting this bald guy, whoever it was.
They knew that he was the backup fighter, so he wasn't completely surprised by having to fight KSI here. But either way, that's a big stud move by a guy like FaZe Temper. I wouldn't want to fight KSI on 10 days notice. Obviously, he was prepared for a fight, but different opponents, different styles. It's still a big deal to be able to go in there on 10 days notice and fight a guy. So shout out to FaZe Temper for that. We'll go more into detail about what I think about that actual matchup. But to give you a spoiler, I think it's a pretty similar skill level to Dillion Dannis. So guys, what do we see here right now? So I think Dillion Dannis, who has not come out with a statement yet, will probably come out and say something stupid and ridiculous like he always does. But the reality is there's no real reason that we can find for Dillion Dannis pulling out of this fight. He mentioned the weight thing a couple weeks ago, or maybe not even a week ago, and that might have alluded to him being ready to pull out. But in reality, he just hasn't had a real excuse. I mentioned at the press conference that Dillion was being haunted by me. He made his excuses and knew he couldn't handle what I bring to the boxing ring. This answers the question whether he's a fighter or not. He's a warrior, all right, a keyboard warrior, and hopefully he's learned to leave the real men to speak with their actions rather than hollow words. That is what KSI had to say about this. When we look at it in retrospect, Dillion Dannis embarrassed himself. He embarrassed his entire community, anyone that has represented him. And honestly, I think this guy should be completely forgotten from the scene. Total clown. Shout out to KSI and his team for being ready for this and for having a backup fighter that is of the similar quality, in my opinion. And let me know, guys, what you think about this. Who do you think is going to win, FaZe Temper or KSI? Do you think FaZe Temper is a better opponent than Dillion Dannis? Or do you think Dillion Dannis would have presented bigger issues? Frankly, looking at all this, I think that Dillion Dannis was just a clown the whole time. Take it easy, guys. Let me know in the comments
what we got from this Dillion Dannis a clown. I feel like FaZe Temper would have been a better matchup because isn't FaZe Temper like really like tough and shit? I don't know. I don't think he's like. I think he might be better than Dillion boxing, but funny how Dillion chose to speak up after the Temper fight was announced. Dillion Dannis is a professional L collector. His whole job is collecting losses. Yeah, that's crazy. He called LMFAO. We have people like weighed out, gossiping up, gassing up Dillion and trying to make this fight look more than it really is, while at least you keep it real. Yeah, I could not read that sentence, bro. I was stopping all over the place. But yeah, he's right. It's crazy, bro. Really did not want to fight. That's tough. I mean, can you even say anything anymore? Like, if you talk all this shit, right, and then you pull out of the fight, and it's not like you're actually hurt and shit, right? then that's an L on you, and everybody gonna be clowning you, and you gotta take all that. You can't say shit because if you say shit, you just look stupid. So just shut up and take it. But yeah, like, subscribe. I still feel like Case has gonna win. I'll see you guys later. Bye.